I had exclusive access to ESA's astronaut training center. No one from my generation has ever witnessed a lunar mission, but that's about to change dramatically. In this video, I'm taking you behind the scenes for an in-depth exploration of how astronauts are currently training to return to the moon within the next few years. I traveled to the European Space Agency's astronaut campus in Cologne, Germany, where I secured exclusive access to their cutting-edge training facilities. Footage never before captured for YouTube. I experienced a simulated moon mission in their advanced virtual reality system, toured a full-scale replica of the ISS alongside an actual astronaut, explored the underwater facility where astronauts practice zero-gravity movement, and even stepped inside ESA's groundbreaking lunar training center, where they've recreated the moon's surface right here on Earth. This facility represents a world first, and nobody else has been granted access to film inside. This video is truly something special, so if you've ever dreamed of becoming an astronaut, this one's for you. Experiencing the moon through virtual reality. When I arrived at the Astronaut Center in Germany, I had no expectations about what awaited me, and what I discovered completely exceeded my imagination. My first destination was their extended reality laboratory. They launched this program back in 2015 to help astronauts prepare for space missions using virtual and augmented reality technology, and they actually allowed me to participate and take a virtual journey to the moon. All right, I'm curious. Have you tried VR before? I have, just a little bit, yeah. Wow, I'm actually on the moon. That's right, you're standing on the moon. So what you're seeing is a 16 by 16 kilometer section of Shackleton Crater, and this isn't something we just invented. This is reconstructed from actual digital elevation mapping. Basically, we scanned the lunar surface with satellites. And yeah, we recreated this environment. Then for the finer details, we use Apollo mission imagery to make it as realistic as possible. As you just heard, I'm exploring Shackleton Crater through VR. This is an actual impact crater located at the lunar South Pole, and this is precisely where the Artemis astronauts will be heading in the coming years. Humanity has never sent people to the moon's South Pole before. Here's where the Apollo landing sites were located, and this new location will present some genuinely fascinating challenges. One major challenge we discussed was how at the lunar South Pole, the sun never rises very high above the horizon. This happens because the moon is only tilted approximately 1.5 degrees compared to Earth's 23.5-degree tilt, and this creates enormous, incredibly dark shadows. These shadows can stretch for many kilometers, and they're so profoundly dark that you could literally hide a school bus within them and have absolutely no idea it was even there. Shackleton Crater specifically features this remarkably interesting topology, where the outer rim of the crater remains essentially permanently illuminated, while the interior stays perpetually shrouded in darkness. That's absolutely crazy. Though I think I understand what you mean about the shadows now, how you could genuinely hide a bus down in there. Yeah, I mean you're welcome to try walking a bit into the crater, if you'd like. Okay. All right, I can adjust the sun's position to make it easier for you. Okay. All right. I think you can stop there, and then I'll lower the sun again just below the horizon, and you'll see, basically all around you, you can't really see anything. You can't see anything at all. Exactly. I learned something absolutely fascinating from this experience. If I asked you to imagine yourself as an astronaut on the moon, looking back at Earth and watching the sun move across the sky over the course of a day, what kind of motion to the sky would you expect the sun and Earth to be performing? Would you expect them to simply rise and set like the moon and sun do for us here on Earth? So what you're going to observe is the sun rotating around the horizon, which is the actual motion it performs. You can release the lever, which is what happens when you're positioned on the South Pole there, and then the Earth is going to perform a sort of yo-yo figure-8 motion. This is because basically the moon always faces the same side toward Earth. It doesn't really move around the horizon the way the sun does, right? And you'll also experience eclipses. I see, yeah. I totally didn't consider how the Earth wouldn't also do the circular motion, how it would just move up and down. If you look closely at the Earth when it rises, you're actually going to notice something. Let's see if you can identify which side of Earth is facing us. It's upside down. It is, isn't it? And why is that? Because we're on the South Pole, and so I'm essentially standing upside down on the moon. Exactly right. Something we rarely think about is how the moon possesses only 1/6 of Earth's gravity, and this fundamentally changes our understanding and intuition about how objects behave. So this VR system is excellent for providing astronauts with that crucial intuition for how everyday objects move in microgravity environments. You can pick up some rocks and try throwing them in lunar gravity. How much do these rocks weigh on the moon? I'm not entirely sure, actually. I mean, they weigh 1/6 of what they would weigh here, but I'm not completely certain. But you can see you're able to throw them way farther than you could on Earth. I feel so, oh, nice, you hit it. Of course, the astronauts on the moon won't have the freedom that we enjoy here on Earth because they'll be constrained within their spacesuits. And this brings numerous challenges. And I'm actually going to put your spacesuit on now. So now if you look down at your hands, you have the XCMU suit, which is what they're planning to use. Now if you move a bit to the side, you can see yourself. Wave at yourself. Wave at us. Hello, hello. Yes. There's so much more to discuss about astronaut suits and spacewalks, but we'll dive deeper into that topic later in this video when we speak with Hervé Stevenine, ESA's spacewalk instructor who literally trains every single European astronaut to prepare them for space. This amazing trip, after the VR experience, we proceeded to visit the life-size replica of the European Columbus Laboratory that's part of the ISS, and who better to guide us through it than an actual astronaut, Rosemary Coogan. Rosemary is brilliant and happens to be an astrophysicist as well. We hear constantly about astronauts who are engineers or pilots, but scientists can absolutely be astronauts too. A quick word from our sponsor. This trip to Europe filming content for all of you has been absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to share more of these experiences with you over the coming weeks. But for now, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, Saily. And this partnership is actually perfect because Saily is an eSIM service that provides affordable eSIM plans across over 160 countries and 8 regions. If you haven't heard of them, eSIMs are simply the easiest way to connect to the internet in different countries around the world. This will save you enormous amounts of money on roaming fees. So while I've been in Germany, I've been using Saily's European eSIM plan that connects me directly to the internet no matter where I am throughout Europe. And the best part is you don't need to purchase a physical SIM card for this to work anymore. You can simply download and install an eSIM directly from their app, and you're all set. It even works for both iOS and Android devices. So next time you're traveling and you want to save both money and time, use Saily to set up your internet connection abroad. And I've even secured an exclusive offer for you. Use code ASTROCOBE at checkout, and you'll receive 50% off your Saily data plan. So just download the Saily app or click the link at the top of the description. Touring the ISS with a real astronaut. So for me, space is just this completely fascinating realm where galaxies and stars and planets are born. But from an astronaut's perspective, it's also the place we need to go and explore to truly discover where we came from and how the Earth came to exist. And there's so much you can learn in microgravity that you simply can't learn on Earth. So this section here is Node 2. And then this is Columbus. And this is really the main feature of this mock-up, the main event, if you will. But Node 2 is also quite interesting. I mean, I think this is always a nice part to examine because this is a mock-up of crew quarters. So this is essentially what a bedroom would look like in space. It's a bit like a phone booth-size space. Is it for one person or multiple people? One person. Yeah. And the mock-up isn't completely high fidelity. So normally you have 1, 2, 3, 4. I see. So there's one on each side, 4 identical crew quarters. Because I suppose there's no one true axis necessarily. And then this is Columbus. So this is a European module where all the European designed or European experiments take place. And each one of these units is called a rack. And within each rack, we have various different possibilities for conducting science. So, for example, this is a glove box. So this is a completely sealed environment where an astronaut would carry out an activity inside here. Perhaps it contains dangerous chemicals that need to be contained, or it might need very specific temperature control. For example, so you might have biological experiments in this sort of environment, perhaps. Is this mock-up true to scale, do you know? It's a little bit larger. That makes it even worse because I was going to say, from the outside it looks massive. But when you're in here, especially when each of these racks is taking up the exterior space, what I've heard people say is because we're looking at this in this environment, this is our floor. But actually there's half the space up here we're not really utilizing. So I think the space almost increases in a way. But I think one of the things about being an astronaut that's sometimes a bit of a misconception is you don't actually have to know very much about the science. You know, you're not the scientist. You are facilitating the science. I found this point to be absolutely fascinating because it's accurate. I mean, astronauts aren't expected to be these geniuses with infinite knowledge about all the different aspects of science. Rather, they are simply highly skilled individuals equipped with the tools that make them capable of completing tasks effectively while within challenging environments. And they develop those tools while they're down here training. How astronauts prepare for space. So, who better to discuss this than Hervé himself? And Hervé is a fascinating individual. He runs the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory at ESA and has been training astronauts for spacewalks for more than 20 years now. He's the only non-astronaut citizen in the world who has completed spacewalk training in both NASA's EMU suit and the Russian Orlan suit. And he's just an incredibly cool guy. So my name is Hervé Stevenine. I work here at the European Astronaut Center. I work for ESA, and I am the ESA spacewalk instructor for the astronauts that have been recruited by the European Space Agency. And welcome to the Neutral Buoyancy Facility, which is this hall with this large water tank that's 10 meters deep. And in this water tank, we train the astronauts on what we call the EVA, Extravehicular Activity Pre-Familiarization Program. So this facility's purpose is really just to prepare the astronauts for spacewalks and familiarize them with the tools they will be using while they're in space. So then we have the Columbus module here, a full scale of the... It's true to scale. True, yeah, and the same scale as the real one-to-one. And you have the external platform over there. Then what we do is we have to equip the astronaut in a specific configuration. This is the first step in the training process. They don't dive in the actual spacesuits here in Germany, but they train with a similar setup before traveling to Houston to train using the EVA suits in a similar diving pool. So how do they equip the astronauts to be trained on these simulated spacewalks? So we use first a jacket like this, a buoyancy jacket like any diver would use. And this jacket has the purpose of being inflated and deflated by the safety divers to ensure that the astronaut is always neutrally buoyant in the water. That's the beauty of the underwater environment, and that's why we conduct spacewalk training underwater. When you are neutrally buoyant, you can float in the middle of the water just like you would be floating in space, at least if you perform slow movements. This is where you attach all your tools, all your tethers, all your hooks, and so on. And this is in front of the torso. That's exactly the same position that you have in the spacesuit. In the spacesuit, it's plugged into the suit. Here, we attach it with a belt. So ultimately, our astronauts are equipped like this. In addition, we have a backpack simulating the volume and the envelope of the life support system that's somewhat bulky in the back. And this is how they float in the water, just like they would in space. Being an astronaut is physically demanding. And one of the key elements also that we add are the gloves. So these gloves are just the external part, which is for protection from heat and the micrometeorites that you can encounter in space. The real one has multiple layers inside, and this is completely inflated under pressure. So there's enormous resistance, which we simulate by simply putting another glove inside and a palm bar here. The point Hervé is making here is that working with these tools is extremely difficult when the EVA suit is inflated. You lose so much dexterity. And so here on Earth, they simulate that by using 2 layers of gloves and that palm bar. This already starts to reduce the dexterity. Not as much as in a real spacesuit, but it's already tricky, quite difficult. This is super difficult to grab something when it's pressurized. Hervé was explaining that your arms become extremely tired because it's the equivalent of having to squeeze a tennis ball thousands of times in just a few hours. So I simply had to try out the glove for myself. The other thing was, could I try on one of the gloves? Sure. So, because I'll show you something first, and then you can try. So that's the way you open the hook. Okay, so try to do it now. You go down, down like this. Yeah, squeezing this. Yeah. Okay, okay. It's not too bad with my glove. So let's put this on. Try to go to the extremity. You're in. Okay. And then you put this one in addition. Let's try to go fully in. Yeah, I think you're in. Yeah. So you lose dexterity a bit. You don't have too much pressure, but it's already noticeable now. Just imagine you have this in your hand and try. Not one hand only. Okay, one hand. Yeah. A little. It's hard. Yeah. Try to put it here. I'm going to click it down again. Yeah. Okay. And then it's way, way, way harder. You see how difficult it could be. And you were saying when it's inflated, it's even worse. It's even worse because it's like pressing a tennis ball continuously. And also it's tiring. Like it's physically exhausting on the hands. And that's the key. Not only do you need to be fit for that, but in addition, I would say from a physical perspective, doing a spacewalk is like running a series of 100-meter races for the duration of a marathon. Oh, it feels, give me 5. I'd feel safe if you were out there with me. Okay, and I promise I'm not exaggerating at all. It really was significantly harder than I anticipated. It felt like you were trying to learn how to use your hands again. It was genuinely uncomfortable. How astronauts stay safe during a spacewalk. You have to always be secured to the structure, which you may have seen in the movie Gravity or other science fiction movies where the astronaut is floating away. And this is unrealistic. This is catastrophic. This is nice for a movie, but this should never happen. And it has never happened in space. Why? Because first of all, the astronauts are attached to a cable, a safety line with a reel, like a fishing reel, you see? Yeah. And this cable is attached to a handrail, just when they exit the airlock. Yeah. And then they translate. So imagine that they lose contact with the station. They will float away, but they will return to the attachment point. Are they all attached with just this one cable? Yes. Yes. When Hervé mentioned that this one thin little wire was all that connected the astronauts to the space station, I felt genuinely scared. And I understand that it's incredibly, incredibly strong, but it still just freaked me out. Yeah. Okay. That's the reason why they have a rule to apply, which is you have to be attached always by 2 points. Okay. Sure. One is your hand like this. So what they should do is when they want to translate, they have to grab another handrail and then let this one go. So it's forbidden to do this, to push and reach the other one. Like in science fiction movies, they just jump, and that's not acceptable. This cable, which is the best friend of the astronaut, because with that, you are safe. Imagine that you're not careful enough. And this is going around you. It turns around. It's going beside your backpack in the back. You don't see it. You're not able to remove it. You're like a turtle in the sand on its back. Stuck on your back. Yeah, stuck. So you have to call your buddy. Your buddy might be at the opposite side of the station, coming back, taking time and helping you. That would be okay. But you lose a lot of time. Now imagine that your buddy is incapacitated. Your buddy has a problem, is not able to return to the station. You have to save your partner. You go there to save your partner. You will attach your partner like a bag, a large bag with these things. And you will push and pull your partner along the station inside the airlock. Now imagine that when you do that, you get stuck with this cable. Your partner cannot help you. That means both of you will die outside, because there is a third suit inside the station for someone else to put on. And even if you want to get out anyway, to start getting into the suit takes 2 hours. An astronaut nearly drowned in space. Now I had to ask Hervé about Luca Parmitano. He is a truly brilliant European astronaut who has completed many spacewalks. And there is one particular famous story about him. I've actually made a short video about it before, but in case you haven't seen it, I'll summarize. Picture this. You're an astronaut going for a spacewalk to perform some maintenance, and you're admiring the view of our beautiful planet below you when all of a sudden you notice your helmet starts to fill with water. This really happened to Luca back in 2013. It's hard to tell, but it feels like a lot of water. Oh, I see. I see it now wiggling. Luca Parmitano reporting some water buildup behind his head, inside of his helmet. 24 minutes later, the water had continued filling his helmet and started to cover his eyes, nose, and mouth. So they canceled the mission, and he had to start heading back to safety. But what's even worse is the sun had just set behind the Earth, so he couldn't see anything. He couldn't communicate, and was on the verge of drowning in space. So he simply relied on his memory of where the handholds were and slowly, but surely made his way back to the airlock in complete darkness. And the most incredible part was this guy just didn't panic at all. I mean, his heart rate remained completely stable the entire time. So let's hear what Hervé had to say about the incident. I wanted to ask about Luca, because there's that story when his helmet was filling with water during a spacewalk, right? Do you think it's part of this training? And I think the story goes that his heart rate was steady the whole time he remained focused. Do you think it's all this training and the repetition of it that allows the astronauts to be like that? It helps. First of all, you have to consider the background of the astronauts. So Luca is a former test pilot, and they are all selected with they're experts in their field. And they have been through psychological training, psychological evaluation, during the selection. And going through the psychological evaluation during the selection, the ones who are selected to go further are the ones who already have a strong approach to problem solving. One key element is, you are in trouble. What do? Do you freak out? Do you panic? Do you get so focused on the emotion that you lose the part of your brain that is needed to solve the problem? Or are you able to set that aside and focus on the problem? But what happened with Luca is that he was constantly trying to find a way and to think ahead. So he reached a point because his water was coming from the life support system cooling loop. This is a water cooling loop that was leaking in the back with the airflow going backward over there. And because in space, in weightlessness, water just flows around the surface with capillary forces. So it was going there, going into the ears. He could not hear anymore, then going down close to the eyes, close to the microphone boom. So when he was talking, we could only hear very inaudible sound. And then they decided to go back, interrupt the spacewalk, and they asked a partner, the NASA astronaut, to clean everything, clean the worksite, because all these tools have to be brought back inside. So, and he was left alone during this time. And it was a time when the water was coming into his face. And he was anticipating that the water could go into his nose and mouth and could prevent him from breathing. So he was already thinking, instead of freaking out like, help me. He was going a step further, thinking, yeah, what is my next step? The next step, he was already thinking that there's a valve, a purge valve on the helmet, close to the helmet, where you can open a valve to purge the air that you have inside. So he was thinking, if I have too much water, I will open it, purge the water out of the helmet, knowing that as soon as the water gets out, it will freeze because it's minus 100 degrees outside when you are not exposed to the sun, and it could block the valve. So it's a temporary solution, but it was another option to keep going. So what he did, best friend, don't forget your best friend. He said, okay, I'm like in a cave, not seeing anything. I'll grab my cable and pull on my cable just to return in a blind mode to the airlock. This is what he did. And once he reached the airlock, he was helped by his partner to get inside. And I think he makes an excellent point. I mean, it's clear that the repetition and training is what saved Luca that day, but ultimately astronauts need to be able to stay calm under pressure and think ahead, figuring out what their options are, and making the correct decisions to save their own lives. Visiting the moon on Earth. And finally, it was time to visit the brand new lunar facility. When I was visiting, it had only been open for a few weeks, and it is truly remarkable. It features a 700 square meter test bed filled with lunar regolith simulant, essentially moon dust that they have recreated here on Earth. Welcome to Luna. I think this is not only the newest facility here at EAC, it's probably one of the newest facilities across ESA, just recently inaugurated about 2 weeks ago. And Luna is our what we call moon on Earth. It's our place where we simulate the moon. This facility is the first of its kind, and it has so many applications. Before this, When people want to conduct astronaut training or test lunar rovers, they either had to do it in a small test bed, like those used for the NASA Mars rovers, or they would have to go out and do it in the field by traveling to the deserts. But of course, this takes enormous amounts of time and resources. And if it rains, your day is ruined. It's already open, so you can already see inside. Yeah, you've already found the most interesting view. It is massive. So this is a moon test bed. Yeah, it's about 700 square meters. And how deep does a regolith go? In most of the area, it's 60 centimeters deep. That's deep enough that you really feel like you're walking on sand, and not on concrete that has some sand on it. But then on the left-hand side where you see this crater, this is 3 meters deep, and that's where we want to conduct subsurface activities. You can use it to shape the terrain a bit, make it feel like the moon, but you can also use it to do some drilling, excavating. We've also placed some targets already underneath that simulate water ice, that simulate a lava tube, so you can start detecting things from the surface with instruments. A massive feature of the facility is the lunar regolith simulant. By analyzing real moon rocks and dust, they were able to determine the chemical compositions and recreate it using volcanic rock and other minerals that are mined here on Earth. So the regolith is what we call a regolith simulant. So it's something that's as close as we can get to the lunar surface material. But there are different simulants around the world. We've used one that we call EAC-1A because we've classified it here as EAC. This is much more fine than what you typically have on a beach or so. It really feels dusty and not sandy. So you can touch it if you want. And that's why, whenever you go in there, you need to wear protective equipment. It feels like finer sand, but then you're right, it does feel so dusty. It's very sticky as well. Because we were getting a really early and exclusive look at the lunar facility, there were still a few elements left to be installed. But when they are, it's going to completely revolutionize training. They are going to create a fully functional simulated sun and Earth that illuminates the surface of the test bed. And the most exciting thing they're working on is this device that will be mounted to the ceiling that would essentially simulate the moon's gravity, treating the astronauts somewhat like puppets. This is actually what we still have here as a poster. This is one of the exciting, unique features that we will eventually have in Luna. It's not yet built in, but that's this gravity offloading system. Basically, the idea is to reproduce lunar gravity. Our astronauts walking on cables basically, and it will take off their weight. So if you're 100 kilos, basically the system pulls you up with 80 kilos. And then it was time to go inside and explore. We had to first put on some safety gear before heading in, and I think it looked pretty stylish. Interestingly, they mentioned that over the next few months, they're probably going to have to stop allowing people who aren't actively training from entering the facility. So this might be the only time a YouTuber is allowed inside, and it was genuinely mind-blowing in there. They had massive rocks for astronauts to practice conducting geology fieldwork on. They had this 3-meter deep crater to practice getting out of, and they even had this scale model of an actual lunar lander that they're developing. So one thing is to recreate a bit what you typically do in the field here, understand how you move, do it repetitively in the same environment again and again, try to understand how it works over time and how you optimize processes. But then we work on the individual equipment and tools. Also the spacesuits. We actually try to understand how we work with suits here. Emergencies is a big thing. Like, how do you handle astronauts that have some kind of incapacity? I don't know. If someone falls down a crater, how do you get them out? The idea is that eventually, that's our ambition. Anyone that goes to the moon at some point will have come here before and will have trained here. It is developments like this that genuinely excite me about the future of space exploration. And I can't wait to see how this facility is used to prepare real astronauts for missions to the moon over the next few years. If you could like and subscribe so we can continue to make videos like this, I would really appreciate it. And I want you to comment down below where you think we should go next.